Welcome to the Parish the Thought Show. The opinions of Brian, your host, and his guests have not been sanitized or scientifically tested, so please consume at your own risk. Now, here's Brian.
Ladies and gentlemen, and whoever else is listening, welcome back to the program. My guest today is Justin Levine, the founder of Strive to Thrive Coaching. And I'm just going to let you, Justin, tell us what Strive to Thrive Coaching is, what it's all about, how does it work, and take it away.
Great. So yeah, Strive to Thrive Coaching is based off the idea that, especially in a therapeutic sense or lens, we have kind of your survival state transitioning towards your thriving state. Survival is just day to day, barely getting through, minute by minute. But thriving is really getting to that point post-therapy where you're able to just be flourishing in your day-to-day. So not only are you completing your tasks like your homework and getting in the gym, but you're also, applying for jobs and you're looking at next steps and you're making an impact in the community. So it's a way that, we kind of define here at Strive to Thrive in my company, this goal of we're not just going to settle for okay or decent. We're going to try to, have our clients really, make the most of their lives post. And how we're doing so is I'm supporting them in pretty much anything that they're up to. The industry, I've kind of found there aren't a ton of resources after a client were to leave a therapeutic program or boarding school. It's kind of a heavy drop off. So I'm there as kind of a older brother, a mentor, a tutor, all in one, a fitness coach. So I'll help somebody, with their healthy living plans of diet, exercise. And then I study neuroscience. So if they need help with schoolwork, I'm there for that. If it's executive functioning, like learning how to, plan out their week or to visualize their day, pretty much anything is up for grabs, so long as the parents are interested and they see a need and it's, at that level where it's potentially holding them back.
So a lot of students, they come from higher structure and daily built-in activities and a lot of oversight. And then when they leave a program, they kind of are just out in the Wild West trying to figure it out without much support or safety net, or even structure for continued therapy. So as it kind of goes, or as I kind of came up with at Strive to Thrive Coaching, is the idea that therapy kind of helps the past, but coaching helps build the future. So you continue to do the coaching, you learn the life skills, whether it's, building an exercise routine or healthy living in terms of dieting. You pretty much learn all of the different ways from just executive functioning, from learning how to plan out your week, or to do strength training at the gym, or to go for a run, different healthy living things like eating healthily. When I left the school, I pretty quickly realized that a lot of it was going to be me fending for myself. I went to a really great college that had a lot of therapeutic resources that I was able to take advantage of. But it's a lot, that autonomy piece for a kid that is used to therapy and things being kind of a given in their life because it was kind of structured and created by parents. To now have to kind of create it on your own and seek out those resources. Asking for help is really hard, and it's not always a skill set that people leave a program with. So I was able to figure it out on my own, learned about how connections are everything, how going to, seek out the tutors for help with classes, to go to coach if I needed something running wise, or whatnot. I was able to figure that out. But many kids are stuck in a position where they hadn't learned enough of those life skills going into, say, college to then be on their own all of a sudden out of the blue.
Do you think kids, because they've gone through the residential treatment program and they've graduated in their mind, and maybe this was with you, I don't know, do they just figure, I've done it, I don't need anything anymore, I'm good?
Yes.
Is that the mentality?
Absolutely. I think it's pretty common amongst clients, students, however we call it, to think that when that time has come that you graduate, so to say. Graduation usually means it's done and
You're
finished.
done. You moved on.
Exactly. And in this case, that's just the beginning of your journey, right? Because now you're entering into quote unquote real world, and you've got to learn all these things that maybe you, in focusing heavily on therapy, didn't learn, or schools sometimes don't teach, like, figuring out how to get a job, or how to balance kind of your school with your fun, or to still go to therapy and see the priority there, and that it's not I already went through it and graduated a therapy program, I'm good. Therapy really is a continuation that persists onward someone's whole life, to continue to grow and to better oneself. So kind of where my business works well is it's not a replacement for therapy, because therapy with a professional has its reason and its benefit. Mine is to fill in all those other gaps that then allow somebody to flourish in therapy, or to flourish in their job, or to flourish in college, which is to do all the little things like building an exercise plan, building a healthy, diet plan, figuring out how to find work-life balance. Some other examples, even homework help. I studied neuroscience in college, so that means I can help with the biology, the chemistry, math, the whole array, neuro, of course, chemistry. I mentioned psychology is included, of course, in there. So mindset coaching and all different ways that I can loop education, real-life experience, having been a student turned staff, is invaluable because I've seen both sides of the coin, and that's been super, helpful to break down a lot of layers that students are struggling with. Oftentimes, it's an us versus them in a therapy clinic, where they say, "Well, staff, you can't relate to having X, Y, and Z." Well, for me, I automatically can break down many of those "you can't relates" because I can. I've gone through it. I've had anxiety. It's crippled me. I've, been in a program to which can be difficult because you're away from your family, to then trying to make it after, kind of being, having that really comfortable nest, and going out, to where I went to college, where all these now other influences that you were not, you're almost immune to. For example, when you're in a program, what we call emotional safety is always present, which is kind of that comfortability. People are very respectful of feelings and emotions. Well, you go back into the college world, the real world, the job world, people might not treat you that exact tender way that you were treated. So you kind of have to learn to gain that thick shell. And I'm kind of that person that kind of acts as a bigger brother for these kind of, postgraduates of therapy programs, to then gain the thick shell, to build the confidence, to me being an optimist, to have really, maybe the biggest study could be just between someone that quote unquote makes it or doesn't, turns their life into something really, productive and continues to go on that growth path or not. Sometimes it's just if they think they can do it. So many clients leave a program and they actually don't have the full confidence because they know they can do it in a therapeutic setting, but they're not confident they can do it out with all these other influences. If it's a substance-seeking kid, of which I wasn't, they might say, well, I can stay sober in a program where all those things are taken away. But once the temptation's there, they're worried, they're anxious. How am I going to fare? And giving them the confidence, hey, you can succeed. I've succeeded with anxiety. I've succeeded with executive functioning struggles. I figured it out. I've, found ways to ask for help even when it wasn't easy. All of those different things kind of come to you, and I've experienced it, so now I can kind of guide the path.
And you also you're a running coach as well, right?
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit about that and how this, it seems like it gels right with it.
Yeah, how they merge together.
Yeah, merge together perfectly.
Yes. So for me, one thing that was fascinating in my upbringing is I've always been an athlete. I grew up in South Florida, so I played every sport under the sun and all year round. The perk of that was that I got to see how much sports filled in my life in terms of building structure and making friends and that whole element. But because I'd always played sports, I never actually knew how much mental health benefit it was doing that whole time. I actually had surgery last year, and I got a bit of a wake-up call because I almost built a dependency on always running my whole life, to where when now I wasn't running, I was tired all the time. Somebody that doesn't run gets the adrenaline boost, the endorphins, and that comes as kind of a bonus. For me, my body almost depended on it after years. I'm pretty unique in that way that it actually has always been something I've been gifted with, that benefit.
That's like a serious healthy addiction.
Yeah,
right.
Pretty much, because it's like it was subsiding my anxiety all this time and I didn't know. So running honestly gave me the chance, I think, because I had pretty severe crippling anxiety. I think that outlet and all the benefits mentally is what gave me the chance to then work through all of the different things and to dive into therapy, because similar to a medication intervention or different things, they're kind of Band-Aids. You still have to fix the root issues. You have to deal with the thoughts. You have to deal with the difficult feelings that you get when you're super anxious, dealing with the different triggers that might cause anxiety. But running for me, especially, was really, well, to give you actually one of the most impactful times in my life was when I stopped running. So sophomore year of high school, coincidentally, when I then went to a therapeutic program, was the time I quit running because it became a job. So I lost the joy in it, and that's when my anxiety was worst in my entire life. Then when I went to the school, they said, hey, Justin, like, we know about your times and you've been a successful runner. You should definitely run, because not only will it help you to rebuild that passion, but it'll help the therapeutic aspect. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I run, because I like to win. And they're like, well, why don't you run for fun? And I was like, run for fun? That almost doesn't compute, because for me, it was very different than the current culture of I like to run and I go to marathons. Running was like my sport and my passion because I love to compete. It wasn't as much just because of the joy of going out in nature and moving for 30 minutes. So I learned at the school to find that joy in it and to run just for the fun of it. And because I then found that relationship, it prolonged my career. And then I decided to run in college. And that's also when I excelled, because now I was enjoying it, doing it for the right reasons, which was for me and no one else. And I earned All-American senior year of college. And we had a COVID cancellation of my outdoor season. So that opened the door for me to then potentially run as a postgraduate. So what happened was, the story there is, I tried to come back out into the running world, find a team at the graduate level, and BYU is one of the best. So I, as somebody that wasn't even a member of the church at the time, wanted to run for BYU because they were top dog and had worked really hard to get to that caliber. And in that time, the women's coach at BYU said, wait, this guy's not even on the roster yet? Can he come train our women's team? And I took it up unknowing what that expectation was, did really well in the workout, got invited back, found out I was the first guy that coach had actually ever really allowed to come back, because I met her expectation, which was very high, and wound up not even getting into the PhD program at BYU. And I've done the pacing, coaching, mindset thing for years since, with both collegiates and professionals.
That's very cool.
Thanks. Yeah. And it was all just coincidence. I didn't think I was going to become a pacer. What I found true in my life is anytime I lead with good intention, good things happen. And all I wanted to do was help that day, that first day that I did the workouts. And every day since, I've just wanted to help. Same with wanting to work back at the school, is just to give back, to help. And when you lead with a good heart, it just really usually comes full circle without you even asking for it.
Karma,
they call it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Tell us, how long have you been in your Strive to Thrive coaching business practice? How long have you been doing that? How's that working out? How do you find clients, and how does that work? How do people find you?
Great.
If they needed knowing, or again, I guess you have to tell them that they need you because they may not know that they need you.
Sure.
So how does that work?
Yeah, great question. So I now have a website up and running, strive2thrivecoaching.org. I have an Instagram page. So far, I've used my personal page to kind of try to build up the company page on Instagram, but it's strive2thrivecoaching_ on there, and I'll provide you with all the different links. And the big way that I've tried to promote the company so far is because of those running connections and just people that I've kind of taken notice over the years that have talked about mental health openly. I've tried to reach out to see who's interested to gather stories for blog articles for the website. So I took one class in high school on digital marketing, and I learned Canva. And I've used that class more than I could ever imagine because I know how to make graphic kind of poster boards. So I've taken the idea of asking people interview questions and then their cool running photos or whatever their passion is, and then creating Instagram carousels with all of the pictures and quotes and everything in between. And then I've partnered with them. I've tagged them or collabed with them so that it kind of spreads to their audience. And that's been super effective, I think, in terms of spreading positivity. So it's always, with any company, it's twofold. It's one, spread positive influence. Second, try to make a living. So the spread positive influence has been going really well. The way I'm actually going to get clients, truthfully, is working within the industry and going to people and sharing my services is the plan. In the therapy world, there's consultants that help placement of students. And I've come to know many of them from conferences and things, and I'll be reaching out to them and tying into my connections to try to spread the word of clients that might be interested in my services, because it is a bit niche, and your average Utah Valley University student might not be in the market for these kind of services, or they don't know it exists. And that's kind of why I am pitching to the world in hopes I can give these resources to clients that maybe weren't your traditional therapy student already.
Yeah, because you're kind of one of a kind. To your knowledge, no one else is doing this, right?
Yeah, pretty much. No one. There's some kind of former students that do therapy industry-based work, but there's no one to my knowledge that was a student, was then a staff for many years, studied the material, did advocacy work in the space, and then created a company to give back. Yeah, that's definitely one of one. And kind of the angle that I'm going for is that uniqueness. Because the question people had asked, right, is, well, why would Justin be the ideal coach for me? And it's, well, lived experience. It's, therapy background. I plan to get a master's, so at some point I will cross over to the therapist role. For now, I sit in the life coach lane because of legality. But what's ironic about school is I have an undergraduate degree, but I have 10 years of working in the industry. And honestly, I think it's inseparable. I don't think a textbook would be able to teach me any of those lessons.
Even the degree, honestly. Yeah. I look at my wife who, we talked about earlier, Rachel, who does art therapy.
Right.
She doesn't have a master's in it, but she's been doing it for 17 years.
Yes.
To me, it's like, so she has to go spend a bunch of money to be certified.
Right.
But she's already doing it.
Yeah.
Is that not the track? Is that not her street cred?
Right. And
which I get. I get the rules around industries. Yeah. I get it. The barrier to entry to some extent, but at some point, come on.
In certain cases like mine is that an abnormality where it sticks out like a sore thumb, because it's like, okay, this guy knows the industry like the back of his hand. But yeah, there are limitations. I can't do formal therapy yet, and I'll have to do, another 2 years of school plus all of the hours, which kind of, in my opinion, is in reverse. Because it's like, can I use all the hours I've already done before school?
Use time off for good behavior. You've served your time.
Right. It's like I've already worked at the place for 5 years prior to the education, but But yeah, for the societal expectation, I likely will go to school. But as people have told me, maybe it'll be a little easier for me because I've already gone through it.
Yeah, you'll be able to just
hopefully
breeze through it and pass the test
and be on my merry way.
And
but
be a TA for the class because you've already done it all.
Exactly. But yeah, for now, it's going to work well in this space where, as a life coach, I don't need the master's education. And it does actually create that path to where I might not necessarily need to go back and revisit school if successful, because the only reason that you have to go to therapy at this point for me to get the therapy education is if I need the paper because it's not been, I haven't been able to produce clients without it.
Right.
So yeah, my goal, and I believe with connections and things, and hopefully Brian's help here, continuing to spread the word, is that I can continue to kind of spread this influence ahead of the education, and then it gives me the option to do the education if I want, not because I have to. Would be awesome.
Right.
So different questions about, per se, what would be an ideal candidate for for this service. So I work with kids, that are anxious, depressed, ADHD, executive functioning, which can be planning, organization, metacognition, all different things. Students that are on the spectrum maybe aren't good with social cues, social interactions, needing help in building friendships. I can give an example of a client that I've kind of already been working with. So this is a kid that on face value, you wouldn't see any immediate need. He's a client that everyday living, you'd be like, oh, he's a normal kid at university. But as you get to know him and you get to know deeper, he's got struggles with even just getting up in the morning, with going to class, with committing to class. When he's actually at class, he's a great student. He gets all his work done. But then after school, he'd rather probably go play video games than do homework. So really, for him, it's accountability buddy. It's making sure I'll go to the gym, I'll do workouts with him. I was a collegiate athlete, obviously, and have played every sport. So I can do the basic level of, hey, here's how the weights work in the gym, or definitely here's how cardio works. So I can take him to the gym. I can then say, hey, instead of maybe fast food, why don't we try, aubergine down the street, which has healthier options. Whether it's, okay, like we mentioned earlier, taking advantage of different available resources. Hey, I heard there's a tutor that actually is complimentary at school. Why don't we try that for, Spanish class that's, more niche, and I don't speak Spanish. And then in terms of friendships, this is kind of a student that would kind of go more hermit type if not held accountable. So, hey, looks like in your residence where you're living, they actually have weekly activities on Fridays. Have you ever considered wanting to go and make friends there? Oh, yeah, well, but I'm a little nervous because I don't know anyone. Well, hey.
That's called normal.
Exactly. And it's like, hey, let's rip the Band-Aid off. And once you make that first friend, guess what? Then he has friends or she has friends. And then you kind of can start building your network. But oftentimes, that actually touches on a really good point. Many of the clients that leave a program have been cut off from maybe their previous friends weren't great influences, or now they're living in a new state because they're in a college far from home. And it's almost a given of life that we get into those positions. But when you have a kid that's maybe super anxious, has severe social anxiety, those things to them is like the scariest thing ever. So if they don't have a built-in network helping them build that and learn to really face those fears, can be monumental in terms of helping them to succeed. Because the number one way that I found that people get into those depressive holes post-therapy program is if they don't have a support team. And if they don't have a bunch of people that are rooting for them, other than them just rooting for themselves, sometimes isn't enough. Because sometimes they even want it bad, but truly mental health can kick in, and it can be debilitating whether you want to be a straight A student or not. And I've found that I've been a really nice kind of assist for those kids that sometimes they want to be successful, but they have a lot of pieces that haven't quite been figured out in their therapy journey or just aren't taught. You can't teach a kid everything. Many parents try and they do their best, But when you're out in the real world, it's like, oh man, you learn, like for myself, I should have paid more attention when my mom was cooking in the house. Maybe I should have helped her, because now I'm on my own in my dorm and I've got two options: figure out how to cook, which to me was kind of scary, or just go eat out every night, right? And hindsight's 2020. So now having somebody like me that can say, hey, let me actually teach you some of those skills that might have fallen by the wayside, gives them the confidence to then not fall into those habits that maybe aren't the best. Because maybe they know, all they know is just go to play video games every time I'm anxious, or to hibernate and hide away from the world, or some kids to find substances or different things to cope. And when you have someone that says, oh no, actually, let's pick back up your love for singing or your love for soccer, or maybe you join the club frisbee team in school or the chess club, that key of keeping all the passions alive, I found, is really critical and oftentimes hard. And the last thing I'd say about it is that many kids that are athletic, like myself, might grow up and eventually the sport does stop. So what's next? And that identity piece is really hard. And it comes early for some. Maybe it's, well, I didn't make my high school basketball team or even their middle school soccer team. And then that's when it gets tricky. Because growing up as a kid, you just think, well, soccer or basketball or baseball or running for me is going to be a part of my life forever. And then maybe you get to a college or you go to a big university that's just unrealistic for you to make the team. And if you don't think in that moment, well, maybe I could play on a club team, or maybe I could just kick the ball around with some friends, you kind of just give it up. And if that was your whole life growing up, you're not prepared. You don't have other hobbies and resources, and that's kind of where I can come in.
Kind of help with the rigid thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's easy to fall into, and rigidity is common amongst, many of the clients I'll work with naturally, if they're on the spectrum or different things. It comes with the personality in many ways. And what's amazing is sometimes just stating the obvious, even myself, you forget the obvious. Like, oh, how do I get out of a depressive loop? Well, exercise. Well, the kicker is, sadly, with depression, you need energy to exercise. And even though exercise will then give you back energy, you've got to fight the lack of energy to do the thing. And I talked on a previous podcast about that hypocrisy with depression and exercise. That's so hard. And most people it's obvious. It's like, well, duh, I should just go for a run. I'll feel better.
Yeah, you're shooting on yourself. It's easier said than done, because you don't have I've only been depressed for maybe 3 months of my whole life, like
right,
bad, and it was because of a breakup, my first college breakup.
Sure. And
all I wanted to do was sleep.
Yeah.
Because it was an escape. I wasn't miserable and sad when I was asleep.
Yes.
So I can imagine you just like, yeah, that you in your brain says, yeah, I know that would, but I just can't.
Right.
I can't make myself do it. It's a tough one.
It is. And the way that I found to give your listeners some tips is, a lot of people, or your running programs or your run influencers out there, or whoever it is, your fitness coaches online, a lot of times they skip a lot of the basic steps. For one, expectation. You have to cut expectation. So for me, I, being a coach, have to realize not everyone is going to be collegiate level that I work with. So if I expect the same level that my coaches in college expected of me, that's not going to do a client likely any good unless they're a running prodigy. So I look at them, to me, maybe running from here to the mailbox would be a waste of time because it's not going to get me where I want to go. But for someone that's maybe never run, that actually might be a tangible goal that would be helpful. Because then maybe they start, I'm going to run to my mailbox, call it, but I'm going to do it every day. And then I'm going to run once around the neighborhood. And then I'm going to try to make it a whole mile without stopping. And then I'm going to make it 2 and 3, et cetera, right? You build up. Consistency in anything is most important. And a lot of people out there will tell you that you have to do this jumbo effort. Like right now, the craze is marathoning. I've got to run a marathon. And I'm like, for one, why do you want to run that far? I've run my whole life and never felt the urge to run 26.2 miles.
In one shot.
In one shot, right. So it's like, for one, okay, that's kind of random that people are so fixated on such a distance.
It's trendy.
Trendy, and that's all it is. But two, it's like, okay, well, how do you get there? And I've seen both sides. Some couched a marathon. And guess what? How often do those people ever run again?
I did it. It was on my bucket list. I'm done.
That's right. But much of the reason that they don't do it is actually they've gained a really poor experience with running. Why? Because they were out of shape, struggling for 26 miles. If you train, like I've coached many people in marathon prep, if you train, for 6 months, you have a very different experience with the marathon, even if it's your first time. Because you've built up to maybe 20 or so miles for a long run, and you go into the race knowing I'm going to be able to do it. And that's kind of the same thing with coaching, is if somebody, let's say, I want to be rich and famous, or I want to be, a college graduate, and they only look at the end goal, but they're not making or looking at the piece by piece to kind of build towards it, it's really scary. Because then one day you're like, oh, shoot, I did poorly on a test. Am I going to graduate? But if it's, okay, well, let me re-navigate. Well, okay, is it the class? Is it my study patterns? Maybe I could use a tutor. Do I reach out to Justin? Do I, is it something because maybe, like Brian mentioned, maybe there's a mental health spell. A girl broke up with me, so I'm struggling right now, which I've had as much as anyone else. And you kind of take a step back or have someone like me to help. It's easier to see on the outside than when you're going through it yourself, to point out and be like, hey, yeah, your dog passed last week. Maybe it isn't the class itself, but maybe we reach out, talk to the professor, and ask for extra time on assignments because of what you're going through. And then maybe it won't topple and the next grade won't, be a poor grade like this last one test, right? You single it out. You say, this isn't my identity. I'm not a bad student because I had one bad test. And then you look at different solutions. I mean, if you have multiple bad tests, maybe it is you go to the advisor and you say, am I cut out for neuroscience? I could tell you a story about my experience in college. So I went to the school where therapy was more the focus, naturally. So I wasn't taking all the AP classes that I was taking at public school back in Florida. What that meant was I was getting an education, but it wasn't to that really, really, really strenuous high level, which was what I needed at the time because I needed to focus on therapy and anxiety to figure that out. But then when I went to college, I went to Bates College, which is a really competitive school. Now the percentage to get in is outrageous. I think it's 12 or 13%. And when I went, it was like a quarter of the people get in. All to say, very high expectations. Then I decided to study neuroscience. Then I decided to run track and cross country. So I put a lot on my plate out of the blue. And my first neuroscience test, I failed it bad. I studied my hardest. I did everything I could. It felt like I left that test being like, did I have to memorize the whole textbook? Because that's how specific the questions were. And I'll never forget, I went to my advisor, who was also my teacher of that class. This is Intro to Neuro, like the first class. And I'm set on being a neuro major, and I flanked out on the first go. So I tell this lady, her name was Nancy Coven, and I'll never forget, because I was going in there thinking she was going to say, hey, should we change majors here? Maybe this isn't for me. And she asked, well, why do you want to study neuroscience? And I said, well, out of all the things on the catalog, this is just fascinating. I love it. It's intriguing. I'm learning all this new information. And what she told me really changed everything, which was she had a choice. As the advisor, she could say, yeah, maybe some other major would be appropriate. But she said, if you really love it and you're passionate about it, you'll figure it out. And because I had that confidence from her being like a Justin, a life coach type person in my life, giving me that positive guidance, I then thought in my mind, I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. And I started doing little things like networking, and I found other students that had figured it out. Hey, how are you doing this? How are you studying for tests? I used all the resources. I got an extra time accommodation. I went to the tutoring lab where the TA was every week and tried just figuring it out. And they're like, oh yeah, actually I used to study this way, but now here's what I do in this way. And I found lab partners that knew what they were doing. So then they were able to teach me how the different intricate, crazy, like neuroscience labs worked. And piece by piece, every year, my grades got better and better. And by senior year, my last semester, I got straight A's in the hardest classes, like highest level of neuroscience at a really hard school. And all of it was that one teacher that had a choice. She could have said, you know what? I don't think it's for you. And at that point, I probably might have listened to her and given up, or maybe somehow found the strength to be like, no, I'll make it happen. But truly, it just shows that when you have someone like me that meets a kid, they graduate a program, the whole world is daunting and scary. And it's like, my life coach, Justin, he's gone through it and he's made it out on the other end. That hope is what every parent and kid is looking for.
It's the how do you eat an elephant philosophy, because it's just daunting.
Right.
And, I've been working out for 30 years and I still don't want to every morning. And my gym is in my basement. Right, but I go down and I do it's that have you ever read The Atomic Habits?
Yes, of course.
That is the 1%. Just do a little bit every day, the consistency.
Exactly.
And then it's not so daunting.
And you, Brian, kind of hit one of the main kind of coaching philosophies I would almost implement if you were a client, so to say, in that perhaps going to the gym, maybe one of the biggest obstacles was every day you have to drive there. So if you're able to kind of create your own workout space to start here in the basement, it then cuts out one of those variables and obstacles
and excuses.
Exactly. So where it's like, well, it's here in my literal house. I've got no excuse. I've got to roll over and go down the stairs or whatnot. It makes it more doable than, all right, it's the winter. I've got to go out in,
cold, it's dark.
De-ice my car. Yeah, it's freezing. It's dark. I've got to drive X minutes all the way to the gym. Then, here's some variables that students will face. Okay, maybe they're social anxiety type. It might not be that they don't want to work out, but they're anxious to be around people in general. So then it's like a combination. It's like we got to start somewhere first. You got to be comfortable working out in general to then work out with people if you perhaps have social anxiety. Add in, like when I go to the gym, sometimes I have my routine, but it's so busy, I can't even use the weights over there. So then it's about finding, okay, where's a gym that, fits my preferred. If people don't have the option to, have their own gym in-house, well, it's what can I do straight from home? Push-ups, lunges, jumping jacks, walk around the neighborhood. Maybe if you have a clubhouse, go use theirs. Instead of going to a gym that's 20 minutes, you go to the one that's 5 minutes. Any of those kind of ways to build momentum is key.
Yeah, I think one of the best books I've ever read about getting yourself motivated to do stuff was The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. Are you familiar with that one?
I haven't read this one, but I have a couple of her books to check out. I'm planning to read
that one. Was basically, she's like, look, you're never going to be motivated to do it. When you wait, like if you have a hard time getting up, you're never going to want to do it.
Right.
So you just give yourself 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and get up and do it. And it's, I have still, and someone was asking about, hey, you guys that get up and you work out in the morning, how do you do it? And I said, I've been doing it for 30 years. I don't want to every morning.
Right.
I just do it.
You make yourself.
And it's not easier.
No.
Because I go do that and then I'll do my workout and then I go and do an ice bath outside.
Wow.
And I don't want to do that either.
Yeah.
But I do it.
Right.
Just because I'm like, okay, I did something hard and it's little.
Right.
You just do it.
But you're right. And every time that you do it, you're putting cash in the bank to build up your resilience for next time. Because then it's like, well, I've already done it once. Then I've done it for a week. Then you could say I've done it for years. It almost makes it like, how could I not do it? I'm confident I can do it.
Because I know I've done it.
Because I know I've done it.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the best anxiety techniques is a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because what you're doing is you're not allowing yourself to overthink. You're just jumping right into it, no option.
Yeah.
If you give yourself no option, well, I've got to lift or I've got to go for a run right now. That's what I have planned. Then you don't allow yourself to go in those ruminations of, oh, I'm tired, or, well, no one else gets up at this time, or whatever other excuses come.
And you'll feel better for doing it just by sticking to it and being true to yourself.
It's true. And as I'm sure you feel, every time you do that workout, your day feels so much brighter, and things are just, it's like, dang, why don't I do this all the time?
Yeah.
And in the moment, one thing I'd say about running, the mind is survival based, I've found, because it's like I've run cross country my whole life, and every race is awful. It hurts the whole time. It's uncomfortable. Your breathing's out of whack. You're like fighting for your life. And then I finish the race. I feel great. I feel accomplished. And then all of that discomfort for some reason, and I think it's survival, disappears, because then I go and do it again. And then same thing. Oh man, this is miserable. I'm back in the wick of it. Oh, this sucks. And then finish. That was awesome. Yeah. So maybe that's my 5-second rule, is maybe a 5-minute rule. You get into it and you do it, and what we call breaking through the task initiation phase, which is just getting started. And then for most of us, we can do and we can accomplish, and then we keep building that momentum. But just starting is the hardest part.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. But then you do it and you're like, and I look younger in a mirror too. So that's always good.
Yeah. And if we're talking Brian, no one can see you from this angle, but you work out. This guy cannot say he does not hit the gym.
Well, here's the thing is, everything that I've built up over the years, if I don't, it's going to sag in the wind.
Right.
And gravity's just going to pull it down. So I have to now. I am committed.
It's the peer pressure from yourself.
Some days I'm like, I wish I would have never started, but right. It's just like, but I'm 56 and I've got to keep going. Otherwise, I'm like, I'm not.
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually would never guess, Ryan.
Yeah. But anyway, well, Justin, thank you so much for coming and sharing this. And if you're listening and this is something you think you need or want, or know somebody that needs it and thinks they want it or whatever, reach out to Justin. And how do they reach you? And we'll put all these in the show notes as well. Yeah. But what's the best way to reach you, or the fastest way to reach you?
For actual client interest would be the website, strive2thrivecoaching.org. Go on there. I've got a pretty clear, all different contact links that would go directly to me. Which maybe as many of the listeners, if you're just curious about learning different techniques, or maybe you're not at that point where you're interested in the full life coaching experience, but you want to check out the blogs, or you want to see all the different insights. I post daily tips on the page. Would be the Instagram strive2thrivecoaching_, or my personal. I currently am just posting everything on both. Dreamers are undefeated is my tagline, and I can even say a little bit about that to end. I wanted to kind of be inspiring going into college, and I used to have just the basic my name for an Instagram, and I came up with Dreamers are undefeated off the idea that I found that anyone that kind of reaches for really high goals and dreams, you wind up so far ahead, even if you don't get that exact goal, than you ever would have been if you didn't set those goals in the first place. So that's kind of the mantra that I've really lived by, is, chase the big, the scary, the daunting. Like, I went in with full passion as a pacer, just trying to help. But then when a pro athlete, I got excited. There's two ways you can use anxiety. You can let it cripple, or you can use that excitement for positivity. And I became that guy that everyone really wanted to have as a pacer, just because I leaned into the fear. It's really scary when a professional coach says, you have to run this time, and I want it to be down to the second. And if you don't, well, we might not invite you back. So I reframe that with the Dreamers are undefeated mindset of, I'm going to succeed, I'm going to hit the time. And when I do, all these other cool opportunities will come. And sure enough, that's what happened.
Very cool. Very cool. I love that. Yeah.
So, yep, Instagram, TikTok sometimes, but mostly I'd say Instagram and the website are the best ways.
All right. Well, thank you so much, sir. It's been fun having you. Good catching up.
Thanks again, Brian.
Thank you again for listening to the Parish the Thought Show. We know you have many podcast options and appreciate that you have chosen us. If you love what you hear, please give us a rating on whatever platform you find us. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. If you hate what you hear, only tell us. You're still here? Click on the next episode for more from the Parish the Thought Show.